Please be seated. This morning's gospel reading is always jarring to me because I think that I'm still at the stable in Bethlehem looking at the sweet baby Jesus. And then I realize it wasn't so sweet after all. This poor couple, not in their homes, have had to give birth in a stable and welcome their first child in what was probably the worst place in the world to have a baby. And it reminds me that the work of Christmas is not the sweetness of the stable, but it's what John comes to tell us. As we heard in the children's sermon, John and Jesus are contemporaries and cousins. They grow up together. John is Jesus' probably boyhood friend. They probably played games together, got in trouble together when they were little, worked together. And then John feels a tug at his heart where he is called to do something different. And I wonder what those early conversations between the two of them must have been like before John really withdrew to the desert to listen to the voice who was speaking to him. I wonder if, as young teenagers, they had an idea of what was going on, if they shared this voice that had been speaking to them. I wonder what that was like for their parents to have these two extraordinary young men to raise. And Mary always knew that this wasn't going to be easy. I always wonder what Elizabeth felt. It's a strange gospel reading for us, too, because we are jerked out of the stable and back into reality. And I fought a little bit with this week. Really, did we have to have this as the reading right after Christmas? Then God reminded me, I'm wearing a mask, and maybe the reality of life is more present than I want to admit. In this time of struggle, in this time of illness, in this time where so many have died, where the future does not seem as clear as it did a year ago, this might be the best gospel for us. Because Jesus' birth was not meant for sentimentality. Jesus' birth was meant to call us out to do God's work in the world. And that's never easy, because it calls us to continually to grow and to open our hearts to what God is doing in our lives. As much as we want to stay at the stable in Bethlehem, that's not where we're called to be. We're called to be out in God's world, sharing God's love and welcoming others into that love. So as we look at Jesus and John this morning from the Flannel Board series, I invite you to notice that always when we tell a story, above the characters are the heart and hands of God. There's always love, and there's always work to be done. So as we begin this journey into this new year and into God's work, I call you to listen to what your heart is saying and the work that your hands need to do in this time and this place. Amen.